This is a story of how Islam connects back to Judaism and explains why the Kaaba is important. So remember, Judaism starts with Abraham, who begins worshiping one God instead of many gods. And so we call this the God of Abraham. And God promises Abraham that he will have as many children, as many descendants as there are stars. There's just one problem with that. Abraham's getting old and he still doesn't have any sons. And so his wife, Sarah, tells Abraham, all right, look, I'm not having any kids. I'm too old. So you need to have kids with, here, take my slave girl, Hagar, and have kids with her. Yeah. It's not going to happen in our society, but at that time it was not super uncommon. But it was very shameful for a woman not to have any children. And so Abraham has a son with Hagar, and they name him Ishmael. But Hagar, since she's the one who has the son, and Sarai does not have any, she starts to get a little uppity. Doesn't always stay respectful. Remember, she's the slave girl. And so she starts to not quite act like what Sarah thinks should be Hagar's position. Maybe Sarah's just a little jealous too. But anyway, this two of them start to not get along. In addition to that, there's a message from God for Abraham and Sarah that says, no, Sarah's actually going to have a child. And so Sarah does have a son, and they name him Isaac. Isaac is a little younger than Ishmael. And Sarah and Hagar still don't get along. So eventually, Sarai tells Abraham, look, you've got to get rid of this other woman. This is not working, and I am your actual wife, and I have given you a son now, so just get rid of this other person. Pretty harsh. But Abraham does what his wife Sarah says, and he sends away Hagar and her son Ishmael, the older of Abraham's sons. So they are living in the desert. They're living maybe in Palestine, the area that is now Israel, but they start heading south, and they get into the Arabian Peninsula. And Jewish tradition kind of leaves them there. And doesn't quite leave them there. Just pushes them out into the desert. Doesn't really specify where. Islamic tradition tells us they made it down to the middle of the Arabian Peninsula. They're along the coast, kind of. And they've run out of water. And things are looking really bad. They're so bad that they get to a spot, and Ishmael, who's most sources agree that he was probably around 10 to 12 years old, so around the age of a middle schooler, 6th grader, somewhere in there. So Ishmael is like gonna die because he has no water. And so Hagar puts him under a bush, which is interesting. She finds a bush in the desert and walks around looking for water. And so Islamic tradition says she walks back and forth 7 times in this kind of valley area. And so you see Ishmael over here dying in the shade, kind of, as much shade as she could find. I'm not sure why there's so many trees around here, but, because it is the desert. So Islamic tradition and Jewish tradition agree that an angel appears to Hagar and says, look, dig right here. There's water under that bush. Go dig there. And so she digs in the sand and she finds water, gives Ishmael water, and they both live. Jewish tradition ends there. So the Jewish and Christian version of the story stops there because that's all they're concerned about Ishmael. Their Jewish tradition, Judaism traces their lineage from Abraham to Isaac to his son Jacob and on through there. But Islam traces their ancestor as Ishmael. And so they keep telling the story of Ishmael. And there's nothing in Jewish tradition that says this version of that what Islam tells is wrong. They just stop talking about Ishmael. And so, basically, Hagar and Ishmael live there where they found water. And that place becomes an oasis and a major stopping point. And Islamic tradition says that is the place that becomes Mecca. And so Ishmael and Hagar build a good life for themselves there. And Abraham is still father to Ishmael, and so he still comes down and visits Ishmael. And they do things together. Probably not building sandcastles on the beach, but this is as close as I could get in pictures. It says that Islamic tradition says that they built a temple because Abraham still wants Ishmael and Hagar to worship the one God. And so he builds a temple out of stone, not sand. He and Ishmael together build this temple, and that temple is what is now the Kaaba. So near the Kaaba, here somewhere you have the spring that is the one they believe that Hagar and Ishmael found that made Mecca so important. The Islamic tradition, or no, actually, sorry, not Islamic tradition, what you read in the textbook is that Mecca, the Kaaba, that place that Muslims believe was built by Abraham and Ishmael, it was a temple, and it was no longer just dedicated to the one God like Ishmael and Abraham had dedicated it to, but it was being used as a place to worship many gods. And so there were other figurines of gods and other statues that you would use to worship other gods. And so Muhammad comes and clears that out, rededicates it to the one God, and then rebuilds it, makes it nicer. And so this is the Kaaba that you see today, basically the way that Muhammad rebuilt it. And every year, Muslim leaders, once a year, they replace this woven covering for the Kaaba to make sure it looks fresh and new and a good place to worship God. And then very few people actually go inside. This is, however, the place where people go on Hajj, on the pilgrimage. So all Muslims try to visit here at least once in their lifetime. And this is one of the main points of going on Hajj, is to visit the Kaaba and worship God here. So that is the connection, how Islam goes back and connects into Judaism, and also why the Kaaba is so important to Muslims. For the rest of class today, you need to finish up your notes. They should be completely finished. We'll do the DBQ tomorrow, but you need to finish up all of the notes from the textbook today. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.